We're quite iffy, aren't we? Barely living, wishy-washy. All our doubts are creeping, haunting. We're just waiting, wishing, wanting. The waves are overtaking, wind still blowing. We've stayed sinking in this ocean, even though we've all been knowing. Our time here's been fine, but now I'm realizing that this is not a good current for me to be riding. Carrying the past, present, and future is way too much weight. I'm so overwhelmed. If only there was some way. Time to make my decision. I'm done with the some days. Today is today, and today is just one day. Today is today, and today I will escape. Hello and welcome. That poem you just heard was a poem of mine called Wishy-Washy, which is from my first poetry book that I wrote called Maybe Someday, Maybe Someday. And it is a collection of the poetry that I wrote when I was 17 and 18 years old, and really tells the story of what I was going through in that time and helped me to cope with a lot of things and work through things and help myself to find some hope in this dark place I was in, so then I could continue to grow and improve myself and get to a place where I could finally say, I love him at last, in my second book, which continues on from there and continues sort of telling that story and continues helping me to grow and find my hope and my happiness. So in this series here on my YouTube channel, I've been going through all of the poems in that first book I wrote, kind of reflecting on who I was back then, several years ago when I wrote these, to be able to see how far I've come and all the growth that has happened over this time, and hopefully maybe be some source of inspiration or hope for anyone out there seeing this who may be going through or have gone through some similar things, or at least, even if it's not the same kinds of things, just, of course, we all have those struggles in our lives, and it's always good to have those people around who can understand that place you're in and the journey you have to go through, and just like I have with myself. So with this poem specifically, the main thing I was trying to accomplish with it was that, of course, as I've talked about in these past videos with the other poems I've talked about, a lot of them have been diving deep into all the depression and anxiety and all this that I struggled with for so many years and somewhat still continue to struggle with now. But of course, now I've been able to get to a place where it no longer has that same control over me it did, and I can manage it all a lot better than I did then, and I really have this writing to thank for all that. But yeah, at the time that I wrote this, I was, of course, very much still in that moment and still in the depths of that depression and everything, and was feeling so weighed down by it all. And this poem is another one that connects to that little sort of mini story and world I built within a few of my poems around this time. Pretty recently, we went through my poem called Are We Safe?, which is the one that really sort of introduces and dives deep into that concept and is a sort of metaphorical representation of this headspace I was in at the time, with this place that I titled the Few Sea, which is like this sea where I am like willingly trapped in, as I willingly trapped myself within this depression and held myself back because of my anxiety and really confined myself within my own self and within my own head. And this Few Sea was a representation of how I feel down in this sea in my mind, just weighed down at the bottom, and I could swim up to the top and get away from there if I wanted to and if I knew how, but I just felt like I was better off staying down there at the bottom, and that it had kind of become a place of comfort. And I began writing some of these poems to help myself see that the Few Sea is a state of mind. It's my own belief within my own head that I am trapped here and that I'm better off here, and that there is no escape. But I wrote a few poems that kind of told a story of me falling into that sea and being stuck there, but then trying to fight my way out of it and see that I can overcome this and I can escape this place and I can thrive on the surface without having to be confined in my mind, and I can truly see that there is hope for me and that there are better things out there for me than just drifting alone at the bottom of the sea. So one of the things I began to notice as I was working through all this stuff was that I was so overwhelmed and weighed down by all these things in my past that I could not let go of, and all these things in the future that I was constantly worrying about. And I spent all my time either lost in the past or lost in the future. And I was never really just here with myself in the moment. I could never really see things for how they really were because I was always worrying about what might be and what has been instead of paying attention to what is right now. So that's the main focus with this poem. It was me trying to see and convince myself that the present day is the only day I need to be worrying about right now. I need to just take it one thing at a time, one day at a time. I need to let go of the past and let go of the future and put down that weight so I'm no longer pulled down by it and held down at the bottom of the sea. I need to let that weight go and let myself float up to the top and just ride the waves of today and enjoy the sunlight and finally escape this place I was in. So in those first 4 lines of the poem where I say, "We're quite iffy, aren't we? Barely living, wishy-washy. All our doubts are creeping, haunting. We're just waiting, wishing, wanting." That's a representation in the very beginning part there of how I am just kind of at a place where I've grown numb to this darkness and all these horrible ways I was feeling, and just kind of became a bit wishy-washy and like I'm barely living, just kind of going through the motions, just letting it all overcome me and let the waves wash over me, and never really made my own choices in this. I just had kind of given up. There was still always that part of me that was wanting something better and hoping that maybe someday I wouldn't have to be trapped here anymore. But all I did was just think that would be nice and just would lay there hoping that maybe that would happen, but never really took any action to actually make it happen. So then in those next 4 lines where I say, "The waves are overtaking, wind still blowing. We've stayed sinking in this ocean even though we've all been knowing. Our time here has been fine, but now I'm realizing that this is not a good current for me to be riding." That's kind of continuing that, seeing how this sea is not a good place for me to be, and I've kind of tricked myself into thinking it's not, but all along I've known that this isn't where I want to be and that things are only going to get worse if I stay here. But now I'm really starting to truly see and convince myself that I don't want to be here anymore and I need to do something to get out of here. So then I say, "Carrying the past, present, and future is way too much weight. It's so overwhelming. If only there was some way." Kind of getting that bit of desperation, like, I know I need to leave. I know I need something better. I know that I should start letting go of some things, and I'm starting to see the direction I need to go, but not knowing exactly how to accomplish it still. But then in the next lines, I say, "Time to make my decision. I'm done with the some days. Today is today, and today is just one day." So, of course, this book is titled Maybe Someday, Maybe Someday. And I titled it that because as I was going through all these poems, as I was putting them together into this book, I noticed how in so many of them I was saying maybe someday or other things very similar to that along those lines. And I was always, anything I wanted or needed or all the dreams I had or all these sorts of different things, it was always just maybe someday that will happen. Maybe someday things will be better. Maybe someday I'll achieve this. Maybe someday I won't have to hurt like this anymore. Maybe someday I can be happy. Maybe someday I'll have hope. All these sorts of things. And it was never anything I really felt like I had within my grasp or that I could ever have now or even soon. It was just maybe someday far off in the future I could possibly have these things. And things could be better for me. But then here, I'm saying that it's finally time for me to take some action and try to stop saying maybe someday so much and make those things I want to happen someday, like start making them happen now, today. If I always address these things as things in the distant future, then they'll probably never truly be. But if I start even little by little making them my reality now and today, then maybe someday they actually will be my reality. So then at the end I say, today is today, and today I will escape. So that last statement is me sort of making that affirmation to myself that I can escape and that I need to just live in the moment and start taking action now. And even if maybe today I do not truly fully escape and I cannot get out of this metaphorical fusey and I cannot overcome this depression and anxiety and all these other things I was struggling with, even if I cannot do that all today fully, I am deciding that today I will take my first step on that journey toward making that happen. I am sort of, in a way, starting to manifest it and see this as my reality, that I will escape and I will get to a better place. And sure enough, of course, about 5 years on from when I wrote that poem, that has sort of become my reality. It's, hard to say whether I've truly escaped or not, because I still, of course, struggle with things as we all do, but I would say that I have very much escaped that place I was in a while ago and have gotten to a place where I'm no longer fully weighed down by this sea of worries that I had been trapped in then, and have very much gotten to a place where I can find a lot more happiness and hope than I did, and am much better at taking action on the things I struggle with in the moment. There are, of course, still those moments that I do push things off and say that maybe someday it'll happen and kind of give into this stuff in the moment, but it's all part of this journey I've been on. And I've very much come a long way from the fusey and from who I was when I wrote this poem. It's really great to see some of these first steps and how I decided then that I wanted to get to where I am now and where I'll be now in my current future. So I'm very thankful for myself back then at that time, finally having the courage to make that decision and begin taking that action, because I wouldn't be who I am now without it. And that's really the beauty to me of this whole series I'm doing and going back through these old poems. Like, of course, as I look back on them, sometimes it's hard to look back because I see all the things I was struggling with then and feel it all again. And also there's this part of me just like, of course, when you look back on old things you've created, like sometimes you're like, ugh, that was not my best moment. And it can be very vulnerable and difficult to look back on these things and to share it with anyone. But here I am doing this for the purpose of trying to continue to heal and continue to inspire myself to take further steps and take further action to continue on this journey and always be improving myself and making a better, happier, more hopeful life for myself. But anyway, that is all I've got for this poem today. Thank you very much, as always, for being here and watching these videos and joining me on this journey. I really appreciate you for being here and watching this video and supporting me and my journey and this channel in any way. Of course, if you enjoyed and would like to stick around on this journey, I would invite you to subscribe and would love to have you here. And again, thank you very much for being here and watching. And as always, remember, let your heart be open, even if no one receives it. Say what you mean, even if no one believes it. Live your life like you don't need a reason, because we're all broken and we're just arranging the pieces. Thank you.